This is the only growth stock that I'm checking for. I'm not even going to look at any others. And it's a specific reason why I must say that. What's up, guys? It's your boy Ty, and you guys know I love to stay up on my stocks. I love talking about stocks and money. You guys know that. That's why I have a whole nother channel, VA Money Matters with Ty. Make sure you guys go check that out. But before we get into talking about this stock, and you guys can tell by the title which stock I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about Alphabet, Google. Talking about Google, ticker symbol GOOGL. Um, I am a firm believer that Google is doing great things out there. But I gotta say, before you get into any investment, crypto, stock, whatever, make sure you know what you're getting into. Full disclaimer, this isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor for you. But I want to tell you guys why I like the stock Google and why I invest in it. But of course, we're going to go and see what the experts are saying about Alphabet right now. Let's take a look.
But will next week's results fuel the fire for stocks or put an end to their record rally? Tim, what do you think? We're going to get an awful lot of reads from, yes, big tech, but like we mentioned, Coca-Cola, General Motors, reads really across the board. What should we be expecting? How do we position?
Well, I think the market is certainly positioned that the tariff impact is less than a headwind than we thought going into Q1, or at least expecting Q1 earnings, I should say. And so it's a very different backdrop. And I think it sets the market up for possibly a little bit more caution here as we really get into the meat of it. But if we talk about Google, this is a company that has really underperformed the rest of the Mag 7. It's probably done half of what Microsoft has done over the last 3 months. And I think that setup is actually quite good. Comps are easy. I think there's better ad spend with a little more clarity around tariffs. I think what we've seen in terms of their cloud business, it's fine. I think YouTube's going to be a bright spot. And I think the company itself is priced at least attractively, even relative to itself, given the backdrop of where people are always concerned about where multiples are coming in. So it's a big week. I do think that the earnings expectations overall from the analyst community, from the investor community have moved higher. And I think that's something that needs to be watched.
Bottom one, I'm sort of looking forward to some focus on the fundamentals when it comes to companies rather than perhaps the big macro picture, although it is impossible to separate the two all the time. What are your expectations? Do you agree with what he's talking about with sort of the difference in Google and Microsoft? Does Google have some ground to make up based on what they tell us?
Well, in terms of performance, they certainly do. It's trailed. The Mag 7 is now the Mag 3 or 4. And that continues to we see switching in and switching out of who those top performers are there. I think with the Alphabet story, it really is going to be about whether or not their incumbent search business has the legs necessary and whether or not they are setting up to transition into AI kind of driven search and they can kind of defend ground there. Again, I don't think it's necessarily important that they get it right this quarter, but I do think being that they've been under scrutiny, that investors are really going to be looking under the hood to see whether or not they have, a legitimate answer to what their plans are going forward. The other thing that I think you're going to start to kind of see is insight into CapEx spend. And we have had this kind of AI resurgent. If you start to see a bit of pullback in CapEx or CapEx related plans, perhaps people think twice about that. But I think ultimately we do want to see the earnings from these tech players, the mega caps, because them and the AI adjacent plays have really been what have taken us to this next leg higher.
Yeah, so many interesting points there. Of course, AI, Courtney, has been sort of this key phrase that everybody wants to say and be a part of. When will we see some of that CapEx that's been plowed into AI by some of these big names really start to show some dividends in the form of margin expansion? Do we need to see it this quarter? Will that separate sort of the wheat from the trough?
I don't know if you need to see it this quarter, but we do need to see it at some point. I mean, that is the concern, is that there's so much capital expenditure at the moment, but we don't know at what point you're actually going to see them monetizing that. And I do think when you're looking at Google, who's going to be reporting next week, their valuation is much cheaper than some of your others. So I think some of this has been discounted because people are a little concerned about the fact that their search business is the main driver of their business and that AI might start to cannibalize that. Anytime you go to Google, the first thing that comes up is that AI search. A lot of people are using that, and that's going to diminish their ad revenue. And I think that is why the valuation has come down so much. And so we need to see when they're reporting earnings, is that happening? And do they have a path to really utilize that going forward, to Bonwin's point? So I do think the good news about them is the bar isn't extremely high for them like it is some of the other companies. But I think we need to see how they do next week.
Yep, y'all read that. Read that right there. See that? You gotta add that in there when you talking about stocks and stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. That go for me too. Yep. I'm gonna read that. Leave that there for a minute. Yeah, matter of fact, we're gonna leave that there. So I would like to say I like Google. I invested a big chunk into Google early on this year, and it, of course, is paying off right now because the whole market is up. And if it go down again, I probably have to scoop some more up because I believe in Google, and part of Google is what we're watching right now, YouTube. YouTube is a big player in Google. I understand like the AI is going to take some of Google's business. And for example, a lot of people still go to Chat GPT for everything, and they can act as a Google, especially when you're, telling it to do things for you or asking it to do the research for you. Google is developing, its own, but again, Google has YouTube. Google has the whole Android market. They have their own phone. Google isn't going anywhere, and they have enough capital to, still dive into some of these areas too. And not only do Google have that, the AI, research and everything, but Google has everyone's data. Like I said, they have all this cloud storage and stuff like that. That is data. Data is one of the big areas, where these companies make money. Your Google Drive and all of that, especially anybody that has a phone, that is data. They basically have your data and storing your data all the time. I think that's a big market too. Um, and just when people are sending emails and stuff like that, they use Gmail, and again, the data is really a big thing. The AI is one thing, the prompts, the searches, but the meat of it is like they have so much data, what you're searching, when it was searched, a lot of data. The AIs, they're running through the database, but Google owns the data. I think that's powerful. And you just see everyone is flocking to content creation, YouTube. YouTube is definitely like the new TV. A lot of people watch their phones, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of those, way more than TV. I know I don't watch TV as much, but I'm also on my phone, especially doing my research and things like that. I go to YouTube. You guys see, I'm pulling news clips from YouTube. YouTube is such a hub of data and resource that everyone uses. I'm gonna invest in that. And I'm a YouTube creator, so I'm gonna invest in Google because of YouTube and the fact that Google has a lot of other plays. So I'm interested to see how Google plays out. And either way, even if they report, good earnings, bad earnings, Google isn't going anywhere. So again, if I see a drop in the market, I'm gonna scoop up some more like I did this year. And I would like to say I just got into Google. A lot of my other plays, all my stocks are pretty good. They're green because I invested in them at the right time, and Google is one of the ones that I invested in this year when the market was tanking and everybody was like, "The sky is falling." Yep, I sold some of those other stocks, those low stocks, and I bought a big chunk of Google. So that is why I believe Google is gonna do well. And again, this isn't financial advice. This isn't telling you to go buy Google. I just wanted to come up here and give a rundown on the stock that I'm investing in. And this is probably going to be the one growth stock that I'm going to keep investing in because I'm part of it. I'm part of its success. I'm a YouTube content creator. So yeah. So yeah, I'm investing in Google. Let me know your thoughts about Google or Alphabet. Let me know if you have any. Let me know your thoughts. Will it go down, up? Again, we just want to start the conversation. And like always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.